My name is Sherod Halliburton, and I would like to welcome you to a community conversation. I am thrilled to have an incredible community asset here today with me. I'd like to welcome Maria Avey.
Hi, Sherod.
How are you, Maria?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, I am happy that you are here as well. Maria has been on an incredible journey, and I'll give her an opportunity to talk about that a little bit. But I've had the pleasure to have worked with Maria for a very long time. Maria, why don't you kind of talk about the project that we've worked on together?
Sure. So the project started back in May of 2010, and it was a project that the community at that time had no idea we needed.
Okay.
And it was a workforce initiative that started with a national fund out of Boston at that time. And I believe what happened is that Meredith Hector from the Knight Foundation,
yes,
approached you about bringing a workforce initiative, and you started rounding up all of us. I was at the time working for the economic development in Sarasota.
Yes.
And I met you through that initiative that I believe started in 2008. And at that time, you know, that's where we all got together to talk about we needed a solution for training and upskilling workers in the community to enhance what our workforce board was already doing.
Yes.
And that's how we met.
That's how we met. Who would have imagined that that initiative that started with a conversation with the Knight Foundation would end, well, not end, would morph into Career Edge and have over a decade long history of making a tremendous difference in this community. When I think back on that journey, I could have never imagined that Career Edge would have the impact on our community that it has had today, and it's just thrilling. I look back on when Meredith Hector came to town, enlisted me. At the time, I was executive director of the Central CRA, and we just wanted to see if there was an interest in this project. Well, when we determined that there was an interest in this project and we got serious about it, the first really smart decision that we made was to engage the Gulf Coast Community Foundation to be a tremendous part of this project, and they were enlisted as the fiscal lead. And I have to tell you, that move there set the course of ensuring that this much needed entity and effort would have the support and the leadership to be successful. So I take my hat off to Terry Hansen and Mark Pritchard for embracing this idea and taking this idea to the next level. Now, the second smart thing that we did was hiring you, Maria. So Mark and I, you know, once Gulf Coast came on board, Gulf Coast Community Foundation came on board, our first joint decision was to bring Maria into the mix. And I am here to say the rest is history. And for those of you who've not been following Career Edge and following the work of Maria Avey, you have to listen to this dynamic person. What she has done in this market is being recognized nationally. And we're just excited that she is a part of our community. I'm excited to play a small role in keeping her as a part of our community. Maria and I have worked closely together for 12 years. And out of that time, you've been my boss for 8 of those years, and I've been your boss for 4 of those years. And so we just kind of have this great relationship where we go forward. You know you have respect for someone when they work for you, and the first opportunity you get to bring them to your board where you now work for them, that doesn't happen a lot. But when I was thinking about who do we need to help us at Financial Access Federal Credit Union, I thought of Maria. So Maria, why don't you kind of talk about that journey a little bit and talk about what are we doing today?
Yeah, that's exciting. And you know, the journey was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work. working in a community and bringing everybody together to collaborate, to set the stage for a workforce strategy for our community. And I had the opportunity to learn a lot of lessons, you know, and I have to add, and I always say this, you brought up Gulf Coast Community Foundation. Mark was a tough boss. You know, every time I thought I hit the mark and the goals, he'd hit me with a higher one, right?
Absolutely.
So I learned a lot, got to know a lot of the employers in the community and a lot of the nonprofits, and learned that our community is a giving community, and we really care about the people here. In our community is a community with two tails, right? We have a community where it's a retirement community, but we have a community of a lot of working people and a lot of people that have to have 2 and 3 jobs to be able to make it. And you know, we won't talk about today where we are with inflation and everything that's happening.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
You know, this is decades, and I think the story is that we really listened to our employers, we listened to the workers to really learn what do we have to put in place to help someone succeed. And why I'm excited about this is that you and I, as you know, we've working together for many years and part of the National Fund. You know, we got to know that we invested in individuals to get them the upskilling and the training, to get them into better jobs so they can make livable wages. But it always kept coming back to that their financial situation was still a struggle for them. Whether they didn't learn how to budget when they were in high school, whether life situations of high cost created, you know, you don't think sometimes that you need to learn how to manage your money. Right? And a lot of times individuals got into better jobs. They still had the same debts, but they didn't know how to manage, wow, I make more money now. The habits were not there, the accountability. And, you know, you and I have been having conversations for 7 years, 8 years.
I remember your trip to the Clean Global Initiative and the wonderful lessons you brought back from that. Share a little bit of that.
Sure. I was just listening to a panel, and it was a credit union. I believe it was in Atlanta. I don't remember, but I remembered like sitting there listening, because at that time you had moved over to the credit union. And we've done financial literacy. We know it's an important component. We work with a lot of our, you know, banks to bring the trainings to our programs when we were doing the Bridges to Careers. But what was missing was the products. Right? The platform. And listening to that panel, I was so excited. I remember calling you and saying, Sherod, we have to do this. This is the piece that's missing. That we need to be able to do this. And here we are, you know, fast forward, I think 7 years. And, you know, I had a life change and talked to you, and then you and I started talking, and then, you know, your visionary mind of, you've always been a community person, right? And the betterment of our community. And I think that this is the next journey, right? This is, you know, for 11 years, my role was to work with employers, look for workforce strategies, upskilling strategies, the career pathways. And I've always known that to be able to complete that, we needed to have a financial strategy for people.
And let me jump in there. Maria, you're absolutely right. It's been an incredible journey. Watching you grow Career Edge, watching the numbers of people who are impacted. That's real. When you start an effort and you make $12 an hour and you finish that effort and you make $20 an hour, you've transformed your family's life. You are now able to contribute more to the economy of our community. It goes on and it goes on and it goes on. And as you know, as a longstanding board member of the credit union, we were always committed to figuring out how we can integrate the credit union into what's going on in the community. Because as you know, Financial Access, which was formerly Manatee Community Federal Credit Union, it's a special kind of financial institution. It is not your typical financial institution. First of all, it's a mission-based entity. It's not for profit. We're not in business simply to make money. We're in business to make a difference. And you and I, our conversations were always about how can we bring access to financial services into the workforce space? How can we enhance your workforce work by adding a component that will not only build the capacity of the individual, but also build the capacity of the organization? And so I'm excited to introduce really to this community for the very first time our next leg of this incredible journey. And that next leg of the journey will consist of strengthening our workforce at the same time we build financial capacity in our employees. And I will use a term that you've always used with me, and that term is dual client approach. That is at the heart of what Career Edge has done. That is why Career Edge has been so successful. They understand that they have a client in the employers and the entire workforce infrastructure, as well as they have a responsibility to the employees. And when you approach this with an understanding that there are two entities that need to be addressed, that's the best way to do it. And so we now at the credit union are rolling out a dual client approach to building financial capacity in employees, thus making them better employees for the employer. And when you and I talk, the one thing that resonates with us is we have to advance strategies that strengthen our employers. Why is that important? Without employers, what do we have? We all work for someone, most of us. That's how we take care of our families. If our employers are not strong and the workforce system is not strong, no one's going to be coming to an institution like mine borrowing money. So for me, it's not focusing on lending money as much as it is advancing strategies that will enhance our community, which will ultimately put people in a better position to be able to take advantage of our services. I will allow you to talk a little bit more about what that actually looks like and the role that you'll play in all of that.
Sure. So, as you were talking, I was thinking about a lot of work that the United Way has been doing around the Alice families.
Absolutely.
And a few years ago, we really got out there to the employers to explain to them what's an Alice family. Because a lot of the employers, they were just looking at turnover was so high. Oh, but we're paying them more money.
Right.
And then we're still losing them. And, there's a lot of organizations working on the benefits cliff. That there is a reality as an employee makes more money, they lose some benefits. Right? So we have to continue working at this, and a lot of times it's how do we help that employee reduce their debt? Because the employers can continue to pay higher wages, but inflation's going up higher.
Oh my goodness.
And then you have all the different benefits that help families, right? And they don't have savings accounts.
Right.
And it's a reality. So that's something that as a community, we've worked hard to work with employers so they understand that employee did not want to be late for work. Right? That mom did not want to be late for work, but she might have had to take a bus and take her kids to childcare.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's really working with the employers to understand, and not just the employers, the supervisors, the bosses of people that may not understand what someone's going through at home.
Right.
They have to help with homework. They have to worry about the bills being paid. Then they get another credit card and they get in debt. Now they make less money because it's their debt. Or they buy a car they could only afford a car that had 200,000 miles on it.
And Maria, you know what happens if you have poor credit and you go to a dealership and you try and purchase a car. if you can purchase a car at all, you're going to pay more than what the car is worth, and you're going to pay a higher interest rate. So the quality of car you're going to get is going to be compromised. And if you have a car, like you said, with 200,000 miles, you might as well be ready to spend a whole bunch of money on repairs. So let's look at transportation costs. I have a car that has 200,000 miles. I overpaid for it. I pay high interest, and that car is breaking down. I have maintenance expenses. I have poor credit. And because I have poor credit, my auto insurance is higher. That person's transportation costs are out of whack. This effort that you're helping us to introduce to employers will allow their employees, we will work with their employees to reduce the cost of all those things they need to spend money on. We can help them reduce their transportation costs. Imagine taking that employee with that unreliable car who's late to work all the time and who's feeling stressed because they're late, and the employer is losing patience with that. We're able to come in and, through our approach, put that individual in a quality car with low miles, with all the insurance products that they need wrapped around it, a low interest rate, and help them grow their credit, which will ultimately reduce their insurance. We've put that employee in a much better position, but we've also put that employer in a much better position. So to quote Maria Avey, a dual client approach to working with our employers. And this is what our strategy is about. And your approach to workforce is what born our strategy. So when we decided we were going to pivot at the credit union from just serving individuals in the community, and we were going to focus on serving employer groups, I was thrilled about continuing to work with you as a board member to help us inform that strategy. Your life change happened while we were having these conversations, and as a colleague and as a friend, I was sad to hear that you were leaving this market. But it took me 5 minutes to figure out a way to keep you in this market. And I'm so thrilled that you said yes to the opportunity to lead our effort in introducing these wonderful resources that we have at the credit union to employers. We're kind of this best kept secret, if you will, in this marketplace. We're recognized throughout the country in doing some very innovative things. You know, I sit on the innovative committee of our credit union trade organization. I sit on the innovative committee of our League of Credit Unions. But sometimes we've not had the opportunity to demonstrate that innovation in this market. Working with employers, having you lead that effort, gives us an opportunity to introduce these wonderful offerings. Reliable Ride, Fresh Start Loans, all these strategies to grow people's credit scores, give them access to loans at a discounted price. One might ask themselves, how can a credit union do that when other institutions can't or don't? Well, we are what's called a community development financial institution, mission-based. We have a relationship with the U.S. Treasury, and the U.S. Treasury says, if you do a good job at that, we're going to provide you with the resources to expand your work. And what I'm saying to our community here, if you support the work that Financial Access Federal Credit Union is doing, we can serve as a conduit to bring federal resources into this community that can help employers, that can help employees, that can put people into cars, into homes, that can support small businesses. We're not here just to loan money. We're here to transform the lives of our members, and we're here to improve the quality of life in our community. And you are a major, major part of that. You've been meeting with employers and having some interesting conversations. I'm not going to ask you to name names, but I would like you to talk a little bit about what you're experiencing as you introduce this concept to employers in our workforce system.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we started having this conversation and, you know, years of having really good outcomes with the employers, and we really delivered. When the employers needed things, that was something, and so it's real easy for me to pick up the phone and ask an employer, can we meet? I want to talk about, the next step of helping your employees. I met with a lot of them, and it was more, I wanted to listen again.
Absolutely.
It's
That's
the
where
listening.
it begins. That's where it begins.
And I wanted to hear and kind of give them a little bit of what we were thinking. And I would ask them, how can we help you? How can we help you reduce your turnover?
That's
How
the
can we
question.
help, reduce, the quality of work that your employees providing? How do we help you? And I talked about the financial part of it. And, they gave me great feedback, great ideas. So a lot of the ideas that I brought to you, they weren't mine. They came from the employers, right? But they want to help their employees, but they're in business to make money.
Absolutely.
Right? But they understand that they have to invest in their employees in a different way maybe than they ever have before.
Yes.
And listening to them and going to them, like I just mentioned, that they gave us some ideas, it really cemented for me that this is really a big need for the employers. That if we can help an employee with their financial situation and change habits,
Absolutely.
it's going to greatly improve their workforce at their companies, improve their productivity, improve how they're going to show up to work on time.
If your car's not running, you can't get to work.
Right, and they're going to be happy employees. But we've also are putting into this some strategies to give those employers that participate and they're part of the work that we're doing, it gives them a little bit of a value add, an edge to their company that their employees say, wow, this company really cares about me. Now they're providing access to the credit union and the products that we're going to provide to help the employees. So the feedback has been, I mean, I've been in here this week, and I think I've booked too many meetings. But the feedback is great, and it's needed. And this is something that I believe is going to help the employers, but more so it's going to help that employee.
Yes.
And
dual client.
We're going
Dual client.
We're going to change. We're going to continue to change lives. So,
Absolutely.
We have the Workforce Board, we have Career Edge, we have other nonprofits helping individuals upskilling,
Absolutely.
getting trainings. We're going to help on the other end. We're going to provide the products that the employees need, so it all comes together. And imagine they make more money. Now their debt's lower.
Yes.
Their credit scores are higher. That's transformational.
It is absolutely transformational. And what's really exciting for us at the credit union is we are now starting to establish national partners. We have a home ownership partner, Landis. That entity will work with the credit union and help us move these participants to home ownership. Even if the individual is not prepared, whether it be credit-wise, whether it be they don't have the savings, or there's any issues or barriers that keep them from owning their own home, we have a strategy with a national partner that can put them in their dream home today as a rental, and they select the home, and we will work with them to build their deposit for the home, their down payment, and within 1 to 2 years, they now own that home, but on day one, they move into their dream home. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the future, but having Maria Avey leading this effort has opened the door to all these other opportunities. We want to help people with their transportation. We want to help people increase their access. Landis reached out to us because of our mission and our name. We're their only partner in the state of Florida. And when I asked, why did you choose financial access? They said they researched our institution and they said our name spoke to them. Financial access. They understand that it's about providing people with access, taking someone, meeting them where they are, and building their financial capacity. I feel fortunate to be in a position to where I lead an organization and that is what we do on a day in, day out basis. I feel fortunate that we have individuals such as yourself who believed in our work to the point where you volunteered for almost 8 years, you know, and now you are contracting your services. I'm quite sure, Maria, with what you've accomplished, you could be doing so many different things. What drew you to this project?
You. What drew me to this project is that my passion has always been to help other people. You know, I mean, I think we all have our history, our background of how we grew up.
Yes, yes.
We understand certain struggles. So you understand them and you live them. So you want the next generation and the people in your community to live better than you did.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I know a lot of times people may think I'm a disruptor and I'm these things, but I've always been fighting for that little person,
Yes.
that little guy, somebody that didn't have that opportunity. And I want things to be fair. And I think you have the same.
Absolutely.
You know, but I'm going to answer this, but I want to go back to the home ownership piece. One of the biggest things, the biggest conversation going on right now is affordable housing.
Absolutely.
Okay? And we have to resolve the affordable housing situation because as I'm driving here in Sarasota, the traffic is atrocious. And that means more people are here, more people need services, more companies need to expand. You know, talking to some manufacturers this week, they are expanding their products.
They're going to need people.
Right, and they're going to need people. But if people cannot afford to live here,
yes.
We have a big issue here. And I know it's conversations going on right now of affordable housing and how are people going to find a place to live. I met with a nonprofit this week, and it looks like she shared with me that a lot of the rents are going up 40% for people. That's devastating.
It's absolutely devastating.
And an employer, you cannot continue to raise wages. I mean, we have to be practical that there's profit margins. You know, companies have to make money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it comes to a point your training level, your skill level is at a certain level, right? So we have to be realistic of how much a job's going to pay an individual. So the house ownership and affordable housing, Sherod, this has come at a perfect time. So
Yes.
I really wanted to say that I'm happy that we're going to play a role in maybe helping some people be able to have home ownership because it's so important right now, especially for the employer, but the people that live in this community.
Yes, and we always viewed home ownership as the American dream. And most of us understand that home ownership is how Americans gain wealth and transfer that wealth. The majority of Americans are not accumulating their wealth in the stock market. And I'm not suggesting that there aren't people who are, but the majority of average Americans transfer wealth simply by owning a home and paying mortgages on that home and the value of that home increasing, and then they pass that home on to their descendants. That is the pathway for wealth creation and family stability that has existed in this country for years and years and years. Well, what happens when home ownership becomes out of reach and individuals are spending more to rent than they ever would have spent on owning a home, and at the end of the day, they have made some company or individual rich, basically, but they have little or nothing to show for it. We want to be a part of changing that. You know, what we do at Financial Access is we're about innovation, we're about partnerships, we're about strategically aligning financial access.
But wait a minute, I think that you said something to me the other day. We're a movement.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. This is not, we're not a credit union. We're more than that. We're embarking upon a movement. And you're absolutely right. I'm excited to say that this is a movement, improving people's understanding of their finances, giving people access to resources that they would not normally have access to. What we're able to do at the credit union is because we're a CDFI, if I'm able to get resources from the federal government, I don't put that money in my pocket. What I do is I use those resources to lower the interest rate that I charge my members. If I have a member who's historically not been able to make payments as agreed, normally you'd have to either say no to that person or you'd have to charge them a significantly higher interest rate because you have to cover yourself in the event that that individual defaults. Our relationship with the U.S. Treasurer allows us to lower our interest rate. And the interesting thing about that is it creates the likelihood that that person will be able to pay the loan to fruition.
Right.
Because you're not helping, as a financial institution, you're not helping yourself or your member when you give them access at an exorbitant interest rate. So we can say yes where other institutions say no, and then we can offer them a much lower interest rate. And what we want to do is build their capacity, move them from paying twice as much as their peers on car insurance, move them from having to pay down payments on water and utilities to move into a home. Because you know what? I don't pay down payments on that stuff. You don't pay down payments on that stuff. A lot of the people we work with do. And they take it for granted that everything costs so much. Well, things cost a lot when you have challenged credit because the entity loaning you money protecting themselves, so they charge you a higher interest rate. We want to change that dynamic. We want to give people access to the tools. We have some really cool financial technology products that will help people understand their credit. We'll talk about that on another show. But in addition to the tools, the strategies, the people, at the end of the day, you got to give people access to the products. I could talk to you all day.
So wait, so you asked me why did I want to join you in this movement? Those are all the reasons. Because those are all the things that through the 12 years or 11 years that I was in my previous role, that's what I would hear. That was the challenges that people would have. And there's a lot of times that I would go to the financial literacy training and some of the individuals would share with me, this is great, but I can't use it. I can't open a checking account.
Can't open a checking account.
I have to go buy a car where they're going to finance me right there at 25% interest, right?
Right. Or use my complete tax return to buy a car and hope and pray that it lasts to next year when I get my next tax return.
And so that's why I was excited that, you know, you actually did listen to me. For all these years, somebody listened to me. But because, and that's what excites me. And I know that it's something we can deliver to the employers.
Yes.
Because employers work hard. And a lot of them do a lot of things for our community. They provide a tax base, they provide jobs. And a lot of times, you know, some people may say that, you know, employers all just want everything. But they also, a lot of them want to help the employees that work for them.
Absolutely.
And I, you know, could share many examples of employers, the different benefits and how they have taken on helping their employees with providing them with probably some loans to fix their car.
Now that's amazing. We talked to one of your employers this week, and that employer had a program where if they had an employee who had problems like a car breaking down, they actually loaned that employee money and did payroll deductions to compensate, to be paid for that. That is how credit unions came into being. So I really connected with that employer, and hopefully that employer sees the value of partnering with us, because what they're doing is why credit unions came into existence. Credit unions were founded to provide access to capital for employees of employers who did not have that traditional access. Back in the 20s, you couldn't have access to financial services unless you were rich. And the majority of people were not rich. So how do they get a car? How do they get a home? That's how credit unions came into being. That's how financial access came into being, serving employees of Tropicana. Anthony Rossi, the founder of Tropicana, would reach into his pocket. I've heard the stories. He'd reach into his pocket and provide an employee money for dentures. And it got to the point where he couldn't keep track of all the money he had loaned out, and he decided to establish a credit union. We're going back to our roots. We served Tropicana, then we moved out to the community, and now we're going back to our roots. We want to work with employers. We want to offer employers a value add benefit, doesn't cost them anything, and their employees will absolutely benefit from it. And the offering we have from employers is different than the offering we have for community members. We are investing heavily in trying to shore up our workforce because that's what CDFIs do. And as a credit union, we're here to build the financial capacity of individuals. I could talk about this with you forever, Maria, but I want to bring you back and we talk specifically as this project moves forward, give a little details about where we are, how employers are responding to this, how their employees are finding this. This is just going to be a tremendous journey. I want to thank you, audience, for joining us in this community conversation. I want to thank Maria Avey for all that she has done for this community, for all that she continues to do for this community. She is still a very important fixture in this community, and I am thrilled that she's committed to give a little bit of her time to us here at Financial Access. I feel so fortunate. So thank you for joining us on Community Conversation, and until next time, have a great day.